did you lean on friends? How did you put together your support team to get you through this?
So I will tell you, it was my friends and my partner. So had a really strong community in Atlanta, which is when this happened. Because when I called my parents to tell them, my mother said, "Well, there are consequences for our sins." And so I then said, "Then I will be talking to you when I'm on the other side of this." And I didn't communicate with them at all during the entire time. And
Oh
that was
my
something that,
gosh.
my parents lived to regret that, I think, in some respects. They're from a different generation, different values, but talk about a hard pill to swallow when your parents say, you call them to tell them that you're fighting a disease that could take your life, and they have
Right.
to say, well, there's consequences for being gay. That's just your lot.
Oh
That's
my
just your lot.
gosh.
Yeah. So that was, if I didn't have, I had a really strong community of brothers through the AGMC in Atlanta. My partner and I were both involved, and having him and his support and some of his friends really stepped up.
Right. Steve Wunch. Oh
Heather
my gosh,
Campbell.
I just don't even know if the world can handle this much energy. So if like you're listening to this and you felt like a shock or something, it's not you, it's us. I'm with the one and the only Steve Wunch, the
Can be
person
only
who
one.
would like seriously, we were just talking about just the tears of a clown sort of earlier, like, are you ever allowed to be sad? And I'm just like, dude, please never be sad. Really one of the most joyful, delightful, fun human beings I know. And we've known each other for a very, very long time.
Very long time. Yeah. Very
Yes.
long
We used to
time.
work at a corporation together.
We did. You can say the name.
Oh, yeah. We used to work at a company called Archstone, which is really actually an amazing company, the first national brand in apartments. And Steve it was my desk, our graphic designer, Kim, and then Steve on the potty path, the three of us. And it was like the three of us, I don't even know how they let us sit together for so long because we would have so much
Well,
fun at work.
if you remember, it didn't last too long because I would go on a trip and I would come back and my stuff had been moved further away from Scott Seller's office. And then it's because I laughed all the time and I don't have an inside voice. I never have had an inside voice. In third grade, Heather, my teacher put a screen around my desk because I was too much of a distraction to the other kids in my class.
That is some legit trauma. My God. That's like some.
I'm surprised I'm as well adjusted as I actually am.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So even though Steve, well, first let's just tell, because you do still work in the apartment industry, which is really, which is an industry that I still love. I still have a lot of clients in that industry. Tell me because you started a new job not too long ago that you are loving. So tell me about that.
I love what I do. I work for a company called Sales Mail, and we are a communication and connection platform for multifamily property companies, senior living
Code for
communities.
apartments. That's code for apartment. Yeah.
Code for apartments. Yeah. So, but instead of a flat black and white email or text message, it's a video message that really conveys emotion and makes a human connection on a much deeper level, and helps people close deals faster, move occupancy faster, and connect with customers in a really human way, which is that's part of my platform. I'm like, let's bring humanity back. We need to be more human.
I know. I feel like there's been such a shift in the industry, and I think we were at the beginning, like I was at the beginning stage of it, like at Archstone, when we started to get really, really into analytics and data, which I love. Believe me, as a marketing person, like that's my love language, understanding the results. But at the same time, I'm just like, this is one of the most humane agreements you make with someone to provide a home. And the experience is just so marginal. So come on, apartment properties.
Yeah.
Get it together. Let's step it up. Start using sales mail. Personalize the experience. You know what? Please, God, just like follow up. Just follow up.
For serious. I'm so serious. For 31 years, I've been in multifamily. And we're still can't figure out why people don't do their freaking follow up.
I have no idea. It is so crazy. So I have shopped hundreds of properties, like fake shopped, and I have my whole story and everything.
Oh
If
yeah.
this podcast becomes famous, all those leasing associates are going to be like, that bitch, she made me. But the thing is I didn't make them do much work because I've only had follow up twice,
uh, yeah,
literally twice. Otherwise,
yeah,
I left ill equipped. It was up to me to figure out how to lease an apartment.
yeah. Well, and
So,
for me, I was actually using sales mail on the supplier partner side. I hated cold outreach. I hated cold calling. I talk with my face and I'm a very
right.
animated person. And when I found sales mail, I would do outreach for, like Optech, which just happened. And instead of sending an email that never gets a response, I send a sales mail and I get people that are high up in companies being like, this is the coolest thing I've seen. Where did this
Yeah,
come from?
totally. Yeah. And
Because
if you just like,
it even shows up as an animated. The first 3 seconds of your video become an animated GIF or GIF
oh
that's
my
embedded in
gosh,
the message. So as you're scrolling in your inbox and you see message after message, and then all of a sudden here's Steve waving
here's
maybe with a
Steve.
whiteboard with your
Hi.
name on it. Hi. It kind of makes you want to click.
Well, it does. And it's like those unexpected moments of delight. That's what I think is like,
Yes. Yes.
it's just wonderful.
It
So
is.
that
It
just
that's
seems like the perfect place for you, like in your vibe.
Yeah. I mean, I
Okay.
couldn't be happier. My founders are just amazing people, and when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. When you hear you say, "How you doing?"
I know. Seriously. I mean, that's the truth. I try to tell it to my kids and they're like, Mom, ugh. But it is the truth.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have like a great career. You've been in the industry for a long time. Like you're nationally recognized. Like you speak on the big national stages, but your life has not always been like that. Like you've had some pretty big curveballs. So tell me about them.
Yeah. So my first curveball happened in 2004. Was living in Atlanta. I had just got a new job with a company at that point was CF Lane, which is now CF, and I was working as a leasing person at Dunwoody Place Apartments, and I got diagnosed with testicular cancer.
Snap.
I was 36 at the time, and typically it's between 16 and 36 is the window of opportunity for that to occur. And
Oh,
I
great. So
was
you got in just at
yeah
the last
by the skin of
minute.
my teeth.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it was a big shock. I found it myself. I knew something wasn't right. So I'm going to encourage guys out there, check your balls, ladies, check your tits. If we can say that
Okay.
on this
Now,
conversation.
now, okay. I'll wait till after
Yeah,
our interview. Yeah.
wait until later.
Yes.
But
Okay.
don't
No, I'll just do
don't
it
sit
like
on yeah,
yes.
don't sit on stuff like that. I knew
Okay.
you would
Yeah.
be able to handle that.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I can handle that.
But yeah, so I mean, I went through a really typically the standard of care is this huge horrible surgery where they cut you open, they take out your intestines, they remove all your lymph nodes, put you back together, and it's like a 6 month recovery period. Well, I was like, I can't afford to be off work that long, and so I just did a really heavy regimen of chemo. I was literally in chemo for 8 hours a day every day of the week for a full week, and then just the next Tuesday a full week every day, 8 hours a day, and then just the next Tuesday. The stuff that they pumped me full of was just, I mean, I called Linda, the woman who was my technician, I called her my bartender.
Right.
And as she had to wear 5 pairs of rubber gloves to carry my bag out, it was so toxic.
Oh
So
my gosh.
talk about throwing, and someone whose life is being energetic, being entertaining, being kind of that bubbly, peppy person to
Right.
go through that. It was really tough. It was tough, and I was lucky at that time. I had a partner who really took took me in and cared for me. And there's not a lot of people in the world that are as lucky as I was at that point.
Right.
So
I mean, because some people would be like, say, I got to bail. And other people would be like, I completely understand. So when people
yeah,
stay like that to see you through. So when I can't even imagine this, like just the stress, because I know how intentional you are. I worked with you for like 7, 8 years, like a long
7 years.
time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I remember when you moved from Atlanta, like it was just, you came to the corporate office. It's amazing. And so, but a long time. And I just know how intentional you are about doing a good job. How did you do that? Like, take care of yourself, but also, like, manage work in the middle of that. That's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, work was very. They were very willing to work with me and giving me the time off that I needed to
That's
recover. But I
wonderful.
was still like, I was really heavily involved with the Atlanta Gay Men's Chorus. I emceed their summer show with going through chemo. It was
Of course
the
you
weekend
did.
the weekend before all of my hair fell out was our performance weekend. And I mean, I had to go backstage and sit down and some of the stuff
Right.
I had to do from just a mic backstage and be the voice of God. But you've got to keep going. You've got to really push it's so easy to cave in and to say, woe is me. This is awful. I just need to crawl in a hole and, be miserable for the next however long.
Right.
I can't do that. I couldn't do that. I mean, I did a lot of sleeping because it kicks your ass and you're tired,
Right.
but I had to keep moving. And my partner encouraged me a lot too. And having someone there, like if I was to go through this now, being alone, it might be a little bit more difficult to maintain
Right.
that positivity. But yeah,
Just knowing you
and
had somebody supporting you.
yeah, and I just
Yeah,
think when you're going through stuff like that, when you meet somebody on the street, you have no idea what's going on in their life because people would look at me up to the point where my hair was falling out, which
right.
I call, by the way, my Uncle Fester phase. And I'm happy to share some photos with you later so you can do a nice little montage. But yeah, I mean, be kind, y'all. Be kind to one another because people are going through all kinds of crap. And
Right.
it's scary. When you sit down in a doctor's office and they tell you those words, you've got cancer, I mean, your world stops and we gotta treat one another better than we do.
Right. That is the one thing that I learned, like, well, I think I've always known that, but it really punctuated the point when I had this issue with my brain when my brain broke. It's so interesting, because you just have no idea what anyone's going through at
Right.
any given time.
Yeah.
And part of it is I had to develop a practice where, because it's so easy too to get ahead of yourself and to, because obviously you might have a deadly diagnosis out there. So of course you're going to be thinking about your life and all those
Yeah.
kinds of things. And it's like I have such an appreciation for people too, because you really do not know. You know nothing about anyone at any given time. And
Yeah.
people on the outside, like when you put on such a good face, like sometimes people would be like a little like too on the up. Like, did you find because you'd be like generally optimistic, and then people would sort of say, I don't know, sometimes like just sort of feeling like they're almost a little too light but it's your life because you've put on like such a strong front.
Yeah.
So did you feel like you said you were in this relationship at that time, but did you lean on friends? How did you put together your support team to get you through this?
So I will tell you, it was my friends and my partner. So had a really strong community in Atlanta, which is when this happened. Because when I called my parents to tell them, my mother said, "Well, there are consequences for our sins." And so I then said, "Then I will be talking to you when I'm on the other side of this." And I didn't communicate with them at all during the entire time. And
Oh
that was
my
something that,
gosh.
my parents lived to regret that, I think, in some respects. They're from a different generation, different values, but talk about a hard pill to swallow when your parents say, you call them to tell them that you're fighting a disease that could take your life, and they have
Right.
to say, well, there's consequences for being gay. That's just your lot.
Oh
That's
my
just your lot.
gosh.
Yeah. So that was, if I didn't have, I had a really strong community of brothers through the AGMC in Atlanta. My partner and I were both involved, and having him and his support and some of his friends really stepped up. And
Right.
yeah, it was, yeah,
I think the reason I might look so shocked hearing that is because I always have known you've had such a close relationship with your mom,
yeah,
which is also like something. So then tell the people what you also did for this
Yeah.
person who you loved, but also judged.
Well, we think about people and we expect them to feel about the world the same way that we do, especially if we're family and we know each other that well. But
Right.
when someone's in their 80s and they've lived and thought a certain way their entire life, I can't
Right.
expect in one moment for them to completely change their take on reality. And so you just take it with a grain of salt. And I
Right.
can't take it personally. It's her decision to feel that way. But fast forward now, and I'm in 2015, where I just had taken a job with Kettler in DC, which is another property management company, great team.
Yeah,
Kimberly
amazing
Ramsey
company.
from our Archstone days is there.
Stop it. Stop
Yeah,
it. Really?
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. We're our
That
Archstoners are everywhere.
oh my gosh. They are. There's like in our industry, it is like the same. And ironically, like for Archstone as being like the premier company that it was, for it to not be in business anymore is just like a
Weird.
travesty of
Yeah, it's weird.
like just a weird transaction and a weird time. And but it's like the 6 degrees of Archstone. Like you
Yeah,
could just I mean, everyone has landed like in so many cool places. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So anyway, I was home for my dad had passed away. So mom and dad had been married for 64 years, which is a miracle in and of
Amazing.
itself. I was home with my mom and just didn't feel like something just didn't feel right. Like she wasn't fully present, or she just didn't
Right.
seem to be her old self. And then I would get calls like at 3 in the morning from my sister. Hey, mom's out. She's outside in the snow in her nightgown. She thinks the back gate's blown open. What am I going to do? And the long and the short of it was, I told Kettler, I said, look, family first, and I've got to go home. And so I moved back to Denver specifically with the purpose of taking care of her, knowing that my siblings, it's their lives are their lives, and I'm single and are able to do some things that they're not
Right.
as able to do. So moved back to home. She probably was living in the house still for maybe a year. And then I moved her in with me. So she lived with me for about 4.5 years. And it's interesting to see how the tables turn when you are taking care of aging parents.
Yeah.
And there's no manual, there's no classes taught to tell you, hey, these are the things that you need to look forward to. So people listening to this, if you've got elderly parents or folks that are aging, have a plan in place where you know exactly what needs to be done, and all those difficult conversations need to happen before they begin to disappear from here,
Yes.
because then you're stuck with making all these really important and life-changing decisions for somebody else. And
Right.
so it was beautiful. I wouldn't trade that time with her for anything. And I'd love to have the opportunity to have her back, but
Mm,
she began to be more than I could manage. On
right.
top of, I was working full time. I was still doing some traveling and speaking, and my sister would come over to help, and she'd be like, "Oh, she drives me nuts. I can't do this much longer." I'm
Right.
like, "Well,
Right.
welcome to my 365 every day
Yeah.
of the year, and
Right.
you can't take it for a week. Come on."
Oh, I know. It's hard. My stepdad is starting to and he's like my bonus parent, my
Oh,
bonus dad. And so, but he's really starting to have issues and it's just so heartbreaking because he was a really like he was an insurance like he was an attorney and litigator, so super articulate.
really sharp
And
mind.
he's just like he's very sweet though. Like I mean, he's so in many ways it's like he has he's so childlike in a way, but he's still like very much my stepdad. So in a way, I feel like I'm really experiencing parental like unconditional love.
Yeah,
And he's so grateful to and I have a brother and a sister-in-law and a sister who all live in Ohio with them. And so I love to do stuff with them, go to the grocery store with them. He
yeah,
loves, and I love to go to the grocery store, and so we just run errands and I'm happy to help because I do know it's hard when you're there, like,
yeah.
on call all the time too.
Yeah, I mean, I for 3 years, I slept elevated, looking out my bedroom door because she would wander through the apartment at night, and she could trip and fall, or she could get out of the house. Um,
Oh, that
yeah,
naughty, naughty,
she was
naughty
a little
lady.
stinker.
She was like, "I gots to go, son."
Yeah. She'd
So
she'd be she'd be fully dressed at, like, 2:30 in the morning. "I've gotta get to the bus, I've gotta get to school." And,
oh, oh,
you
yeah.
really learn how not to be like, "Oh, for crying out loud, mother, go to
Right.
bed." You cannot be that way. My sister didn't,
No.
but I did. But I'd be like, "No, mom, it's Saturday. You get to
I
sleep
know. It's
in."
like like
Go ahead.
my father-in-law had Parkinson's and then dementia is like, I guess, super common as part of that. I had no idea. And I remember we were at their house and like he all like for some reason, I think because my husband's from a big family, so it'd be like lots of people and their house was sort of big just because they had a lot of kids. And he would think he was at a hotel or something. So he'd want to pay you for and I could
Oh.
have said, yeah, it's $300. And I could have easily. I never did like, oh my God, I would never do that. But I remember this one time he was like, can you take me home? And I remember my initial inclination was like, well, you are home. Like, look at these are your things. And then I just thought, no, like he does not know where he is. And so, and I could tell like he was starting to get like really agitated, like,
Yeah,
and as you would be if you had no idea where you were,
right.
and so I was like, he's like, I've done favors for everyone in here. No one's helping me get home. And I'm like, I'll take you home. And all I did is I just took him upstairs and I said, oh my gosh, you're home. But then I realized, you cannot fight that. Like, you just have to be like, even if they say, oh my God, the same thing
Yeah. Oh,
all the
yeah.
time. Like,
Trust
you're
me.
just like, I know.
Yeah. I mean, I had an office off my kitchen in what was a pretty big pantry. I called it my Wunch box. And I was doing podcasts and things even back then, and she
Yeah,
would peek her head around the corner and be like, "Oh, I was just checking to see where you and the dog were." And then she literally would turn around and come right back and poke her head
right.
in and, "Hey, I was just checking to see where you and the dog are." Like, "We're right here, mom. We're right here."
Yeah.
It it's so hard, and, for those folks that are out there listening that are experiencing that, I send you all the love and light that I can, because it's a true test of your humanity. It's a true test of your love for your either your significant other or your parents or whomever that might be. But boy, it's not easy. It's not easy.
No, like, when you cross like, when you really have to help them, like, stay clean and everything, like, that's like such a we're just like, I don't
Yeah, for me, that was kind of where the line had to be drawn. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm your son. I shouldn't be
Yes,
getting
we all yeah,
getting
we
your nooks and crannies clean. And it's 100% positive proof that she was not my mom. I mean, she would have
Right.
been mortified to find herself in some of the situations that I found her in. She would have been
Oh,
beside herself.
yeah.
She was so proper and prim, and she
I know. She always had, like I feel like she always, like, just slept with a purse ready to go, always
hair and
had her
makeup,
lips on.
jewelry, and everything
Yeah.
matched. I mean,
She
she
was
was put together.
style.
Yeah, she was a
Yeah.
style fashionista before her time. But yeah, I mean, yeah. And so then you make those decisions, and that's in one respect, it's a big relief, and you're like, oh, I'm not going to have to worry about this now. But in the second hand, it's now she's falling out of bed all the time, and are they really taking good
Right.
care of her? Or is there abuse? I mean, all the things that go through. And it's been she passed away, would have been 2 years on the 30th of August. And I still will wake up freaked out or cry myself to sleep thinking about, like, did I make the right choice?
Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
right.
it really takes a lot out of, yeah, yeah,
I know. Those moms, right?
those
Like,
moments. Yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
And
They're awesome, they're complicated, but at the end of the day, like,
bringing it
I miss
around
my mom. Yeah.
bringing it around to, she threw me that curveball and said, "Here's your lot. That's what you deserve." And then, I could have been like, that's what you did to me. Well, then you can just get on your own way.
Right.
But
Right.
you don't do that when you love somebody.
No. No, you don't, but your heart is so big too, to just be like, "I'm gonna give up this dream job in an amazing city. I'm gonna move back to Denver to be with you and to help you," like, with that intention as well. And so you said you had a great community in Atlanta. Did you have to who was your support team in Denver?
Probably a few people at work. My sister was there in Denver as well. I had a niece there as well. And while maybe they didn't help as much or in the ways
Right.
that I would have liked them to have, it was still the support was there from them as well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. I get that. One of the things that I think is really interesting is when you have a situation like when you were sick, sometimes I was just talking about this with somebody who was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and I was just sort of explaining, because I had a brain issue, even though it wasn't neurological. We were just talking about what it's like. And one of the just how do you get through that? Or how do you have that like hanging over you and still like go to a concert and have
Hey,
fun and not
yeah.
have it be
Yeah.
like everything you're thinking about? And it's it's oh wait, I just completely this is embarrassing. We can
Did the
edit
train
this
just
out,
leave the
can't
station?
we? Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I do that all the time anymore.
I asked one of my clients, I said, "How many times can I use my brain as an excuse for forgetting something?" And they said,
Hey,
"2
girl,
more times."
if I could
Yeah.
play the cancer card still, I would.
Oh god. I know.
Oh, I've got chemo brain. You gotta forgive
Right.
me on that one.
Okay. Now I remember. Okay. So I remember that, well, because I told this person, I said, what was most surprising to me is who ends up really showing up for you. And I
Hmm.
said, I promise you, it's not going to be the people you think it's going to be. Like, you're going to have some surprise people in there. Cause I thought the people who would be there for me and I get it because they don't know what to do. It's heavy. They're just like, I was becoming slowly disabled. So I was like on crutches and, just these weird things, so I can appreciate, like, I'm not like fun at party Heather, but I sort of, now I know I have like my fun at party friends
Yeah,
too. It was
yeah,
just interesting that the people who I thought really didn't and surprising people were there for me, like 3 in the morning kind of people, like, I'm
yeah. I
awake and I just can't sleep, and then we just have, like, silly 2-hour chats, it's like
I had my Leap colleagues when because I was working for a company called Leap at the time. We were remote, so yeah, they were my family at that point in time. So
mm.
they rallied around me. I remember one time. I mean, so talk about living a country song. I put my dog down, my
Oh,
17-year best friend. Put my dog down.
well,
Went down
that's
the next.
just the first line. "I put my
Went
dog down."
went down to move some stuff into my mom's memory care apartment, and my car had been stolen.
It just keeps on getting worse. Yes.
So put the dog down, car got stolen, then moved mom into memory care, and she's like calling at all hours, "Please come and get me. I promise I'll be good." I mean, like, could life get any more awful? And yeah, I don't know what I would have done without my Leap friends because they were great.
Right.
My,
Well,
my boss
sometimes
was
it's just
actually,
like it shovels it on you so deep and so fast and so much that it's almost like funny, like where you're just like,
yeah,
what more could possibly
right.
happen? Oh,
Seriously,
my
like,
car
really?
got stolen. It's just, I mean,
I did get it back, actually, which is odd. And it wasn't
that is
completely like gutted out with, needles and.
right. So, like, because you are being so
Oh,
funny, like after, oh, you
yeah,
go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, but wait. So the best part is I had all this crap happen, and then my boss is literally in the air, flying somewhere to speak at a conference, and he's like, "You'll be having a knock at your door." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" And then, sure enough, and it's Grizzly, the liquor delivery service, with a whole kit for martinis. He's like, "You need a martini? Your elite family is here. Please enjoy on us and kick back for the rest of the day."
That's so nice. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Isn't it just so wonderful when people do something like that? Like, just
yeah,
really see where you are
yeah. And
and
surprisingly, that it's like the people you work with. I mean, we spend more time with each other than we do our family. So we
right,
really, if you're in the right place with the right people, they will rally around you, because I didn't have anybody else to rally around me besides those folks that
right.
I work with,
Oh
you
my
know?
gosh. Well, and I say this because I can, because I'm not from Texas. So when I say bless their hearts, I really mean
Oh.
it. I'm not saying it like bless their hearts. Not like that at all. So, one of the things that I noticed that you have done completely and consistently and also hilariously, excuse me, is make jokes about everything. You'll be like, well, I call that my Uncle Fester phase. And so, is humor, because I'm certain you have some points where it does not seem funny. It's like it takes a while for something to be funny. You
Yeah,
know, you have to sort of go through it and be on the other side of something, I feel like, in order to look back and start to make fun of it.
yeah. Well, I was making
But
fun
like
of it while I was in it. I mean, you have to. You can't. I mean,
right,
when those cards come your way, you really have to. I mean, it almost strips you down to the bare bones operating system. And for me, one of my big, key components is that ability to look at things and see the humor. I mean, I
right.
was calling myself a one nut wonder, and I was like, it's all fun and games until somebody loses a nut. And I mean, I was trying to keep laughing, because if you don't laugh at it, you're gonna
Right.
end up crying. And I think probably part of it too is a bit of a defense mechanism for me.
Sure,
So when
yeah.
something's really scary, or when something's really ominously looking over my shoulder, that laughter and that humor kind of helps to maybe mask some of the ways I'm really feeling.
Yeah,
But
I relate to that. I remember my first meeting with my neurosurgeon who does not have a sense of humor, which I guess is what you want. Like, maybe not on the
probably,
job, but I was like, I hope you're hilarious, like, outside of work. But, like, my sister and my husband were there, and so he's like, "Oh, who are these people?" And I said, "I brought my sister and my husband just in case things get out of hand today." And so he's like, I just could already tell him, like, I don't he doesn't he's like, "I don't know what to do with this lady." But if I cannot, like, I feel the same way. Like, I that is such a coping mechanism. And there are funny things that happen. Like, even I just remember the first day, like, I finally because there wasn't a time I realized, like, we have all these I felt this, like, did you ever feel this way that you had to have this heroic response and sort of, like, push on through it all? I
yeah,
sort of felt like no one was really saying it, but sort of this, like, societal pressure. "Oh, you gotta power through this and, do something, climb a mountain," before and I thought my radical move was just to honestly try to get myself as close to medically induced coma as I could, because I really wanted to rest my brain.
yeah.
And so but did you ever feel that way? Like, you had to sort of do something extraordinary in
I
that
didn't.
situation?
It didn't hit me that way. It hit me more like, how lucky am I to get testicular cancer? Because it is a curable cancer versus
Right.
some of the alternatives. And I think for me, instead of going to climb a mountain and pushing through, barriers and things that for me, it was more like, I've been dealt this, but thank goodness this is what I've been dealt.
Right.
Because with surgery and chemo, and if I do the right things, there's 90% chance that I'll be fine, and that's pretty good
Right.
odds, all things considered.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, but I
So
can't tell.
even then, like, are you just wired that way, or do you think that this optimism is just really fundamentally how you're generally wired, or is it something that, like, a conscious decision that you were like, I'm going to be an optimistic person?
I am wired that way.
Yeah.
I can vividly remember a Lane Company meeting while I was going through chemo. I'm bald as a baby, singing, I've got you under my skin, playing a pun on cancer to a
Right.
woman who was one of our leaders, Gail Armstrong. And I sang to her, I
Oh, Gail
serenaded.
Armstrong, hot
We had like
shot.
a Yeah, we had like a talent show, and so I was singing, Frank Sinatra, "I've Got You Under My Skin," because I was poking fun at cancer,
Right.
and so I just think it's in my nature to be this way. Thank goodness, because I
Right.
too many miserable people that are not wired the same way.
Right. Yeah, like you can get very caught up in suffer and I knew this, but like it became more obvious, but really the cause of all suffering, I don't even know what the line is. Like your thinking is the cause of all suffering. All your suffering is caused by what you think about. Even when I thought like I might have ALS, I just so relate to this. I was never surprisingly, I was never mad. Like I never had a shake like why me moment.
Yeah, I
And I
didn't
was
either.
never like I never was really afraid. I was bummed out at the idea of my husband having to do my hair and makeup, of course. Like, I was just like, my sister's like, I'll show him. I said, I don't know why. I think either way, whoever, if either of you guys do my makeup, I'm going to end up looking like a drag queen. My sisters in law were like, wear a ponytail. And I'm like, I like a smooth and tight ponytail, and your brother is not a smooth and tight person. Like, I just don't know how this is going to go. So, of course, I joke, but it's, I just never had that kind of moment. So I think because I was just sort of like, this is not what I expected. I think I was so stunned because I just always thought I was going to live to be like 100 years old, shrink down to 4 feet 11,
Very
live
well
some.
still may.
Oh, I totally am. And so
Yeah,
when I was just, wow, like, what if I die in 2 years? It was so interesting. And that's how I just really thought about it. It's just, I was so curious to find out like what is going on in my body, what is happening, and can it be fixed? Like, and I think that curiosity really kept me like right where I needed to be without getting too far ahead of myself. And
yeah,
that I think helped me too. That I think I was supposed to have two brain surgeries and I only needed one. And I'm positive it's because of what I like, how I was just thinking about things. Like I really took care because I was like, my poor brain is in stress. You said you had slept a lot and I did too.
yeah,
And sleeping is so helpful. But I had to like tell myself when you're sleeping, even though it feels professionally deviant to take a nap from like 11 to 3, you're doing something, like you're healing your
yeah,
body right
yeah,
now. And so that was interesting too, figuring out work too,
yeah.
because obviously I have to make money.
Right.
I have my own business, so it's like, but I just knew I'm not doing anything that's going to cause me any stress. And I was like,
Oops,
I'll
sorry.
figure out the money stuff later. Like that's how I really felt.
Yeah,
And here we
I,
are.
I
Look at
didn't.
us.
I didn't think about that piece. I mean, luckily, my partner had domestic benefits at the time, which was kind of ahead of its time.
Amazing. In
2004, yeah,
Atlanta?
Marriott Corporation.
Incredible.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I hadn't had him, I would probably have. I don't know what would have happened, honestly,
Right.
because I had just started my new position at Lane Company, so I was not covered under benefits with them,
Oh my
and
gosh.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it really was it. So
I know. The insurance, the coordination of care. My husband lost his job right in the middle, like right after I found out I needed to have brain surgery. And I
Oh
was
my
just like,
gosh, you're kidding me.
no. So that happened. And then on the same day, I got a brand new laptop and I was so excited. And somehow when I restored my old laptop to factory settings, it also restored, like it just blew away everything. I don't know what I did something wrong. So I lost all my active client files. And
Oh,
I was like,
that's like the
I'm
day that my dog went down and my car got stolen.
right, right.
That's your country song,
That's
Heather
my
Campbell.
country song. Oh my God. I love it. Like, I think my big takeaway from this chat is when things go sideways, make it a country song and it becomes hilarious. Then you're just like, I want more bad things to happen I got to have a second verse. I got to find out what happens. Yeah.
We'll get
That's
to the
amazing.
stanza.
Yeah. All righty. So Steve Wunch, it has been wonderful, and I am so glad you kicked that cancer. You were there for your mom, and you still are absolutely the most joyful, like, human being and just so funny
Uh,
and fun. You can see why we were noisy and loud and laughing a lot because
well, I'm very thankful that you are on the other side of what was a very, very scary time for you. And you also have continued to maintain your positivity, your sense of humor. The way you look at the world is beautiful. And I'm
oh,
so
thank you.
privileged that you're part of mine. And I
Oh.
remember when I left Archstone, there was a note that I got from Heather Campbell that said, Steve Wunch, sometimes when I'm in the mountains, if the air is blowing just right, I can still hear you laughing.
Yes, all the way from Atlanta when you left us. Yes, that's the truth. I love
Yeah,
that. And
yeah.
I love you too. So
I
thank
love
you
you
so much.
too.
And then how can people, if people want to know more about Send Mail, let's go back to Sales Mail. Sorry.
Salesman. Yeah.
Sales Mail, your passion project. Where can they
Yes.
find out more?
Salesmail.com, www.salesmail.com.
There you go.
Connect with me on LinkedIn. I've got a podcast called The Multifamily Mind that you should probably join me on.
Yes, I would love to be a guest because
Yeah.
I will talk all about follow up.
Oh Lord, yes.
I
Yeah.
swear to God, leasing associates, if you just, it requires literally make one
No.
message, copy it over and over and over again, just like swap out the person's name.
You can make one video with sales mail. We call it an evergreen video, and then you just use it over and over. And it's a
Boom.
personalized
We are
message.
solving. Yeah. The fact that follow up still does not happen is,
Mind blowing.
I don't know. It's like, oh my God,
It's
like
like
we
a
need
country
residents.
song,
It's like,
Heather. You
yeah,
know,
I
it
know.
keeps happening and happening again and again and again and again.
All righty. Thank you so much, Steve Wunch.
You bet. Thanks for having me.